to this week's episode of the Python People podcast, where we share stories and insights from technology leaders across the globe. I'm Guy Bevington, the MD of True North Recruitment Group, and this week I'm very lucky indeed to be joined by Liana Vinersan, who's the founder of Coding a Story. Liana, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thanks for inviting. I'm good, thank you.
Good. So yeah, thanks so much for being here with us. And I guess to sort of frame the episode today and how you and I decided it'd be a good idea to get together and record this podcast. So I think we got chatting quite recently about the great work that you're doing at Coding a Story. And just speaking personally, as a father of two daughters, it's something that really resonated with me very strongly, and I think is a project, a company that many other people would really benefit from hearing more about. And I personally really bought into your mission and what it is you're doing. So we thought it'd be great to talk about it in a bit more detail and some of the themes and why you started the business and how it's all going. So yeah, I guess without further delay, if you want to start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your career today, that would be great.
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer. I've been studied. I have studied informatics at the university in Bucharest, management, Romanian American University in Bucharest, and master informatics systems for management of economic resources and processes at the Bucharest University of Economic Studies. And I have always wanted to develop a small business, that kind of business that with personal touch that brings value and stays close to people. But I have started while I was studying at the university, I started working as a software engineer. I've been working for about 9 years in two different companies in Bucharest. And the last one is a large company in Romania that provides ERP systems that are widely used. And I have been working at this ERP solution and its satellites, web application satellites that were specifically designed for various clients in finance, banks, insurance brokers, and providers, and so on. But however, in the meantime, I have tried some businesses. Actually, I read that the average number of failures before a success is around 3.8, and I think I've done my part there. Waiting for success now. Yeah. After 9 years working as a software engineer in these two companies, my first child was born, and I thought it's a good time to start freelancing. So I quit my job and I started freelancing, and I've done this for a few years. I was very happy to have my own clients all around the globe and learn about different cultures and work for different ideas and projects. Then in 2018, my second child was born, and we moved to Switzerland. Here I have been thinking, what can I bring to this market? I now have valuable knowledge, but how can I match this with my creative abilities, my management skills, and create something useful but rewarding for me too? And then this started.
Perfect. Well, I love that story. I love how it's come about, because it's kind of just, I suppose, building on your experience and sort of ticking all those boxes, isn't it? In terms of, say, starting, you want to start a business, and something that sort of ticks that entrepreneurial flair. And yeah, I mean, from when we were speaking, I was just absolutely bowled over by what you're doing and also how you're doing it. So do you want to sort of tell us a bit about Coding a Story, what the business venture is all about, and and kind of how you're going about doing it?
Yeah, so Coding a Story is about teaching children coding. um, and it's about uh, original materials, unplugged materials, and the classes for children. And how I started, like I like this idea of unplugged materials, and I started with a coding class for children between 4 and 7 years old. Actually, this was a coding, yoga and coding class. So this combination, and for this class, I wanted to have an original material to teach the children coding. So I started writing a story um, that we can we can create an algorithm for, like a diagram of an algorithm, similar to the diagram of an algorithm. We create the diagram of the story, and then I have developed this idea, and I have written a book with this story, um, and I've been teaching these classes for a few months. Then Corona came, and there was a break for a few months, and then I started again with new and more classes. And yes, now I'm teaching children coding in Zurich. In fact, the main idea in coding a story is that I like these analogies between coding concepts and the things in real life. I like to see elements in coding in things around us. Yeah.
Cool. That's really cool, and I absolutely love the idea, and absolutely buy into the idea. I mean, my other half is a teacher. She's a maths teacher, and during COVID, we've obviously been working from home a lot, and I've had the chance, you know, when I've been down, not in my office and down in the house, I've had a chance to actually go and sort of listen in to her teaching remotely, and you know, half the stuff that she's talking about, to be honest, goes totally over my head. But it's just one of the kids asked a question the other day about, hey, Miss, why can't we, if we know how to do this, why can't we do this on calculators, you know, rather than actually necessarily needing to know the working? And to be honest, I kind of got his point, because obviously in the day and the world we live in the digital age that we live in, you know, it is so easy, I guess, for us to be able to, you know, get the answers to most things at a touch of a button. And I guess it's striking that balance, isn't it? But I also get the argument of it's really important to build those logical analytical skills that you need, analytical skills that you need to actually be able to solve problems. And I guess it's striking that balance, isn't it, between where the world is now moving, you know, rushing towards this digital era at absolute pace, but also, you know, balancing that with teaching the right concepts that we need to form problem solving abilities, I guess. So from your perspective, why do you personally feel it's important that we teach kids how to code? Why do you feel that's a particularly important skill set to be teaching kids now?
So first of all, I think it is important to teach them computational thinking. So this is the step before coding. This is a set of problem solving skills that involves expressing the problems and solution in such a way that a computer can understand. So, but this approach is used in any problem solving, not only in coding. And this helps with confidence in dealing with complex problems, and the ability to deal with open-ended problems, and these are the problems we have to solve now in this world. So I think computational thinking is really important. And then yes, coding. Some may say it's the new literacy. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that it's another language. It's a foreign language that can be not foreign anymore. Yeah, because everything around us it's made with coding. So programming is part of every area, like medicine, transportation, banking, and I cannot name a field that does not need coding. So it's like accounting. You need it for everything you are doing. So it's an important skill to possess nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's just staggering, really. I mean, I wrote a piece the other day on just how the speed of which the business landscape is progressing, and
Yeah.
the divide between the classic education curriculum and where the business world is going. There's just such a divide now. I believe, in my opinion, that we need to start plugging it. We need to start really reassessing. It's not to say that we will obviously want, one of the things we'll talk about in a moment is the way you actually go about teaching kids these concepts. It's not to say that we want to put kids in front of a screen 24/7 and that should be their existence, but I do feel there needs to be a pretty big awakening pretty soon about the skill sets that we're teaching kids. And actually, I'm not necessarily saying, I think the concepts you talk about, like say computational thinking, absolutely really important, but the sort of the set of facts, I guess, in a way, in terms of the subjects that we're teaching kids, a lot of it is, in my opinion, quite redundant. And actually, we could be teaching kids, like say, better problem solving abilities and things that are actually very applicable to the real world. And one of the things I really like about the way you're going about doing it is, like you said, you can spot these patterns between coding and actually problems that we need to solve in the real world. And I've never actually really thought about it that way before. But talk us through then, how do you go about this process of teaching kids to code? And talk through how that works.
Yeah, there I have some pillars, let's call them like this. One of them is this thing, healthy relationship between children and technology. So as for many children, I'm the first person to introduce them to coding. So I feel I'm responsible to help them get used to a balance between coding and other activities that do not involve screens, computers. So coding should not be an excuse for a long screen time at this age, children's age. Yeah. So this is why I'm teaching. Most of the time for children between 4 and 7 years, I'm teaching unplugged coding. And for older children, when I'm organizing a camp, until now I've organized a camp not a camp, but a class in the holiday to program drones. And we only program the drones in the morning. And if I would organize something more longer until the evening, I would combine it with some sport or movement, because I think there should be a balance, and we shouldn't fall into this trap of screen addiction. And the other things important to mention is in my approach, you can see the characteristics of the Montessori methodology, because I know every child is different, and they may not be interested in, one child may not be interested in, some other children are, and that's why I give them the opportunity to try out multiple things, and then when they find something, I'm there to help them and guide them when they ask me. So in the same room, for example, for these children between 8 and 11 years old, in the same room, children some children may program an animation in Scratch, and someone else may program a drone in Python, and at the same time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think you hit on two really big points there. I think the balance side of it is absolutely key, because, like I said, I'm acutely aware from having these conversations with the other half just how, personally, I feel the education system we have at the moment isn't equipped for purpose, really, to sort of tee kids up for the right skill sets that they need in this day and age. But I'm also absolutely terrified about the world that my kids are going to be growing up in terms of how they do interface with technology. And like you said, my daughter's 3.5, my oldest daughter, and she's got his toy phones and things, and she's sort of on the phone, she's tapping, essentially mimicking us, really. And obviously, as much as I try and not have be on my phone all the time when I'm around her, they just pick these things up. And screen time, it's so easy, unfortunately, to sort of fall into lazy parenting, where you can just put them in front of an iPad all the time, and it's something I'm really, really conscious of. So it's striking that balance between teaching the skills, obviously, that we need to teach, but in the same way, not making it counterproductive to their development as a human, I guess. and the fact that you do it in an unplugged fashion, and that you've really got obviously quite an emphasis on striking that balance. I think that's absolutely key, because obviously you're focused on building out the mental concepts rather than necessarily putting somebody, plonking them in front of a screen all the time and saying that's a good thing. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And the other thing you mentioned there about how, you know, it's guided by the children and they can work on what they want to work on. And I think that's a really important thing as well, because one of the areas I feel that it's quite lacking in education today is, unless you're literally, you know, following an artistic subject like the arts or, you know, something like that, creativity I don't feel is often that rewarded, you know, and that recognized in school. Yeah, it's very much, this is a syllabus, you have to learn this set of random facts and then, you know, go with it. Whereas actually I think in life we learn far more by following our intuition, you know, putting your fruits of your labor out there, getting feedback on it, working out what does, what doesn't work, and then obviously, you know, further guiding that. But I think just that innate ability to actually follow what you want to do and get your sort of creative side out, I think is a really important thing for kids to do. And I think being able to combine creativity and computational thinking in something like coding, the way you're doing it, I think is a really key skill and a really healthy thing for kids to be doing as well, because it kind of, like I say, gives them confidence in solving problems, and kids are way more likely to solve a problem if they're actually passionate about what they're doing, you know. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, what are your thoughts on the sort of landscape of education today? I mean, that's a pretty large and loaded question, but just in terms of the majority of the curriculum that's taught in school in this day and age, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about many countries, but I know about Switzerland. So parents come to me and tell me they are not doing any programming in school, and I think this is useful. They should do this. They can in private schools and international schools they do it as an optional class or so, but yeah, otherwise not. But in comparison, for example, I have a child who moved here from Hong Kong, and his mother told me there they were doing programming in schools, and I cannot believe that here in Switzerland they are not. So I think something is missing here, because I can tell you my personal example. So I had no idea what I wanted to do, what career I wanted to follow until high school when I started coding. But I had all the abilities to understand these coding concepts earlier. But yeah, I wasn't, nobody introduced me to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is down to, I mean, my wife, she teaches at a quite a good private school. It's not cheap to go to that school.
Exactly.
They don't have any, it's not on the curriculum to teach any form of coding at all. You know, and maths is probably about the closest to computational thinking that we're talking about. I'm not saying it's not important to understand maths, but she would be the first person to admit a large portion of what she teaches is pretty redundant in terms of actually being used in the real world. And that's where I feel actually coding can bridge that gap between, you know, forming a lot of those skills, but actually building a skill that is hugely beneficial and usable in the world that we live in today. You know, the biggest companies in the world now are tech companies, and technology is driving the change in every industry. So, you know, why we're not choosing to embrace that and actually build that into the curriculum, it just yeah, it staggers me, to be honest. What do you think as parents? Yeah, because it's something, again, I'm aware of as a parent, to be trying to foster, you know, my kids' interests, but also teach them skills that are usable in the real world today. What do you feel, in your experience, parents could be doing more of or less of at home, do you think, to kind of help with this?
First of all, I see this the ratio between boys and girls. This is in my classes there are 20% girls and the rest are boys. So I'm sad about it. This is the same percent like in woman working in software. at the moment, I think, or
Yeah.
around. So first of all, I think we should somehow remove this this belief that coding is not for girls, and somehow encourage them to make their first steps into coding. And the second thing is, it's important for parents not to be tricked by toys on the market that say this is teaching coding, and because there are a lot of things on the market that are teaching some basic concepts of coding, but if you want to go further, you need something else. And not to be tricked by, okay, they use a screen because they are learning coding, but from a moment they are just playing. So the parents have to be aware of this, and before buying something and trying to do something with their children at home, they have to do a comprehensive review of the materials they are using. And the other thing, they at this level, coding for children, parents can also do it at home. They can also find how they can decompose common activities. Like, I mean, if they read this, if they read about computational thinking a bit, they can see these concepts in different activities. For example, in brushing teeth, you can decompose this activity, you can see patterns, you can, and I mean, yeah, but it's an effort, I mean, maybe not all parents are would like to do this. So
yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? Because I mean, I've very nearly bought a few different programs, and that teach your kids coding. But like I say, I don't want it to be too force fed from me, because like I said, it should be fun, and I guess for it to be something that actually works, they've got to openly want to engage with it, and that's something I'm not going to profess I'm equipped to have the right skill set to, and also I'm not necessarily sure it's at the right age level for their various skills at the moment. But it's really interesting you talked about the diversity mix, because it is a real world problem, particularly in the world of technology, and obviously within the world of recruitment it's something that I encounter every day. And True North as an agency, we do have a particular emphasis on assisting women in tech with their careers. As I said, as a dad of 2 daughters, it's something I'm very aware of for their sort of futures as well. And I guess you've got to be the change that you want to see in the world. But it's often branded as a problem that originates in education. And I guess if you're seeing it at the ages that we're talking about here, this is the real kind of the real root of the issue, I guess, isn't it? If you're seeing a gender divide at the age where kids in reality shouldn't really have too hard a feeling one way or the other towards a subject like coding, but you're still seeing an 80-20 split. Where do you feel that comes from? Do you feel that it is more in terms of the course and what it teaches is more engaging, interesting to boys, or do you feel it's actually down to parents putting their children forward for this kind of activity? Where do you feel that balance lies?
I don't know. I think there are multiple causes, but for parents for sure, because and not only parents, but the whole industry, toys for girls are dolls and so on. And even now, if you read the book for children, you would see the mother preparing the food, and the father going to work. And this is, I mean, from birth, from the first book story. It's something that, and yes, there are also girls that are interested, but I think their parents are doing something different. because I know what they are doing. So, for example, there is one girl in my class which is very, very, very smart, and she does all the exercises before the other children, and she's the only girl there in that class. But her father is really interested in her to learn this coding, so he tries to find the opportunities for her to learn. And yeah, I think it's a very deep problem, this. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. You know, like I said, for you to be experiencing that level of gender divide at that age, it clearly is a very deep problem. You know, and a lot of, I do put it down a lot of it to advertising, and you know, just when you're watching kids TV and you just look at some of the adverts on there of, you know, girls are playing with dolls, boys are playing with cars. You know, it's no wonder that, you know, kids grow up with that kind of mentality, I guess, to a certain degree. And I think, yeah, it's something that probably needs to be looked at in society in a wider setting, not just blaming education for it, but actually looking at it from advertising point of view.
Not only the parents, but for example, I have a daughter and a son, and I have never told my daughter coding is not for you, or robots are not for you, you should play with dolls. But she goes to a kindergarten where she meets other children, and they other girls, and they tell her about the princesses and stories with princesses, and you know, this influences her, and she comes home and she tells me, oh, I want to be a princess, I want to play with a princess doll, and so on.
Yeah.
So
Totally. That we had that exact experience at the weekend. So my oldest wasn't particularly well. She went down with a fever in the morning, and we did, obviously fearing the worst. You know, we did the COVID test and everything, and it was okay. So we knew it was just a fever. But anyway, to kind of make it feel a bit better, following a couple of days, we went to the toy shop, and you know, we just said, look, you can choose one toy. And she was in the trolley, and we were just walking down the aisle, and you know, I'm very conscious in that kind of scenario not to be pushing them towards one type of toy or the other. But we were walking down an aisle, and yeah, I think walking past like Batman and Spider-Man, things like that, and I was like, oh, do you want to have a look at these? And she's like, no, they're all boys' toys, Daddy. You know, and she's only 3.5, and I was thinking, how does she know that? Because we've not said that. And we've always been really conscious with our kind of vocabulary about how we talk about toys. But like I said, you know, she's mixing at preschool, and you know, mixing with other kids, and it's probably just reinforced on a subconscious level in so many other different ways, isn't it? That it's a really inherent problem. It's a very difficult problem to tackle. So yeah, it's interesting. Not an easy solution, I'm sure, but okay, well, it's absolutely fascinating to talk to you, Liana. And I guess where's next for Coding a Story now? Where do we go from here?
So my plan is to grow. For this year, I will start teaching more classes. I'm thinking of organizing camps. Like in the summer, I'm thinking of organizing a camp for children to program drone swarms in the mornings, and then in the evenings they could prepare choreography for themselves, and in the end we could organize a show with the drones and the kids. So a project we would be working for 1 week, and kind of things like this. I will organize, and I'm writing a new book with exercises that we are doing in this class for 4 to 7 years old, and I'm creating a board game because I'm now I know this industry. I know what's on the market, and I think I know what's missing, and I'm doing my part there, and hopefully I will be able to launch this game and this book this year, and grow. And then next year, let's see if I will take this to the next level, like make it even be better, and hire other teachers. But let's see.
Fantastic. Well, absolutely fascinating and very exciting times ahead, I'm sure. And yeah, you know, as I said before, I massively buy into the mission that you're on and the kind of purpose of the venture. And I wish you every success. And you know, I'm really impressed by not only what you're doing, but the way you're doing it as well. And I think you really you know, seem to have hit a really nice balanced kind of angle in terms of the way you're doing it, which I think will resonate with a lot of people. And you know, I think you deserve every success that comes your way. So I look forward to following your the rest of your progress intently. And yeah, let's do another episode in you know, a few months or a year down the line and see where we are. And I'm sure we'll be talking about your latest successes.
Okay.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for your time, Liana. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye for now.